Then I'm going to cover dorm/food, academics, friends/people, culture shock, imposter syndrome, extracurriculars, and work.
Baby, shampoo and come and save me. I've been missing lady luck ever since she started hating. I've been waking up too early. I miss our crazy hazes in the middle of the night. Watch the stars from different places, and the phases we call love won't ever start to change. But do you ever wake up feeling like...
Hey guys, it's Crystal here, and today I'm going to be filming a video about UC Berkeley. I am a freshman at UC Berkeley. I'm going to be filming that video that I wish existed when I was choosing between UCLA and UC Berkeley. Actually, there are a few that I did watch. Now I want to contribute. Okay, so before I get into this video, I am making college videos. I am becoming the full-blown college YouTuber I've always wanted to be. So if you are interested in following me along in that journey, you should subscribe and hit the post notification bell. And if you're not, you should still subscribe because maybe I'll surprise you. Next thing, you should follow me on social media because sometimes YouTube disables my comment section, and if you ever need to get a hold of me, my social media, and all of them, is how you will do that. In this video, I will first give you a little bit background about me. I'm not gonna do full stats, but if you want a full stats video, I will make you a full stats video, just let me know. Then I'm going to cover dorm/food, academics, friends/people, culture shock, imposter syndrome, extracurriculars, and work, and that's pretty much going to be it, and like social life sprinkled in among there. So first, a little bit about me. I did post a video about like me picking my college and all that stuff, but I mainly in the end came down to UC Berkeley and UCLA, and my biggest reasons for picking UC Berkeley are the things that really made me decide. I had the opportunity to go to Bruin Day, so I chose to go to Bruin Day and didn't go to Cal Day because I am from 35 miles from Berkeley and I figured I could go to Berkeley at any time, and I'd never been to UCLA. When I went there, it was kind of dead, whereas all my friends' snaps, UC Berkeley at Cal Day looked amazing, and I was like, wow, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm not a really big fan of heat. I sweat a lot. I didn't like the idea of like walking up a gigantic hill to get to like where I was going to be living on the hill at UCLA. Didn't like the quarter system. All of the adults I've ever spoken to about the decision were like, UC Berkeley is number one, UC Berkeley will always be number one, and I was like, yikes. So those were my turnoffs for UCLA. I'm sure there are great ones if you are considering, but for me, I picked Berkeley because I am interested in going into the business program. Haas is amazing and one of the best opportunities I have. Hopefully I get in, we'll see. It was closer to home. I really have always loved San Francisco since I was young, and I love the idea of being able to like look out my window and see it depending on where you lived, but most dorms had views of San Francisco, so I loved that. You know, honestly, I'd never really considered UCLA. UC Berkeley had always been on my radar. It's always been the goal, and then I thought I had a decision to make at the end, and I honestly really didn't. So dorm/food, the way dorms work, and I did not know this. Or actually, I did. Okay. Well, first I'll address how I found my roommate. So I found my roommate by joining the Berkeley Class of 2023 page, and you basically, on Instagram, but they also have Facebook, and they'll have one for your class too. I basically went on there and I was like, yo, who wants to be roommates? I'm Crystal, and a little bit about yourself. They give you a template of things to put. And then you do this awkward speed dating thing where you slide into people's DMs who you think are cool, and you follow them, they follow you back, and you're like, hey, congrats on Cal, and they're like, hey, thanks, go Bears, and you're like, go Bears. And then you kind of like, oh, so you're looking for a roommate? And they're like, yeah, I'm looking for a roommate. And then you guys kind of talk about it a little bit. I didn't like that because then I was like trying to talk to other people and figure out who was best fit for me. So eventually I was like, hey, here's a bunch of information about me. Are you looking for a roommate? If you still are, I'd love to get to know you. Congrats on Cal. And it was long. And then another girl sent it back to me, and she sent to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I'm so tired of the speed dating thing. And I was like, that's my girl. And we actually got along really well. Her name was Sylvie. She became my roommate, and we put in requests to be in doubles. And you can look around about housing at Berkeley, but basically for freshmen, there's Clark Kerr, there's Blackwell Unit 1, 2, and 3, and then there's Foothill. in terms of on-campus housing. And usually people really want Clark Kerr because that's where like the athletes live, and the rooms are bigger, but it is like 20-minute walk from campus. And then Blackwell is a lot nicer. It's kind of got like sophomore priority. It's kind of like a hotel, and Regents live there, basketball lives there, gymnastics, swim. So, you know, the athlete lodgings are kind of a rule, but I live in Unit 3. Unit 3 is... no one puts Unit 3 as a request. But the way the housing system works is you and your roommate put in your request, they'll line them up, you put in each other, you put in each other's like student IDs, your applications are attached, and then you're put into a lottery system, and all the freshmen are put into this lottery system, and then you kind of just end up with what you end up with. So basically we got none of our first choices, and we ended up in a Unit 3 triple, which was actually a shoebox, but I wouldn't have it any other way these days. Natalie was our third roommate, and we were really nervous because we didn't know who she was, and it ended up being absolutely amazing. People put in requests to move out of Unit 3, and Sylvia and I did, and we turned it down when we got a double because by that time we'd already moved in, and Natalie was amazing. Unit 3 is literally like a 5-minute walk from campus, and if the light is in your favor, like a 4-minute walk from campus. So sometimes I would leave at 11:03 and class would be at 11:10. Woo! I wouldn't have it any other way, and you kind of just learn to live small. And now I'm gonna live in my sorority next year. My opinion was like there was nowhere to go but up. Food. So you get a meal plan as soon as you get your housing. You know, the food at Unit 3, so Cafe 3, the food at Berkeley is, you know, I think it's ranked the lowest in the UC system. There's not much to say about it. Pretty much there's a lot of restaurants around Durant Avenue, like close to campus, that you can go to and eat that and pay money. I had a lot of salads, I had a lot of cereal. If the food looked appetizing, you could always trust the rice. And for the most part, the curry chicken was pretty good. Oh, lots of pasta. But I went to UCLA once and the food was really good, so. The next thing is academics. Whew. So UC Berkeley is the #1 public school or public university in the world, both online and in person. Yay, Zoom. It's hard. Like, it's literally hard. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's not easy. I think every major at Berkeley has some of the best people teaching it in its field. So I'm sociology and pre-business. My Soc professor has us reading her readings, and she's conducted research for the federal government about like ethnography and people groups and Hispanics, and she got her master's, or she got her undergrad at Berkeley and then her master's at Princeton, or the other way around. And she's honestly amazing. I think she's literally just dope. And another one of my professors is a lecturer, and she's super cool. She's super into lecturer rights, and she stands with the grad students, and she gives us time off to go to, like, she won't penalize you for not being in class if you're going to a rally. She goes to rallies, she participates. She's super fun, and I go to her office hours and just, you know, I'm super freshman around her. And these are professors from my upper division sociology classes, and they think they're the coolest. And then the math, so I've taken math both semesters. It is hard. And math is a weeder course for a lot of majors. It is hard, and you need to identify your weaknesses and be able to accept them, acknowledge them, and figure out a game plan to make them stronger, to make yourself stronger. So for me, I like going to the Student Learning Center. It's basically the tutoring center. There's also adjunct classes for a lot of like lower division math classes. So an adjunct is basically a second class that goes right along with the curriculum in your first, like your actual math class. And it's taught by a tutor or someone who, like, faculty who runs the Student Learning Center, and they basically develop a secondary curriculum to reinforce everything you learn. But it is a lot of work. It is 1 unit. It is pass, no pass, and it should at least be 2 units, but I mean, obviously you only take it so that you do well in your math class, and to be honest, without my adjuncts, I would have failed. Friends and people. Okay. So, friends and people. Okay, I talk a lot about some of this stuff in my last video, so I'm just gonna assume you watched it. I met a lot of people through classes, I met a lot of people through orientation, and I have been sure to check in on them all. I'm really bad at keeping in touch with people, but I have a big heart. So once you're my friend, you have to stay my friend. And I get really sad when I lose a friend. I lost a friend. Made me sad, but it's okay. People in general. Okay. So UC Berkeley, this is the best among the best. Like, if you got in, then you understand what it took to get in, and you understand that there are people all around, like slightly better, slightly worse, those are bad terms to use, who got in at the rigor that you got in at. So that's how you kind of understand those kinds of people who go there. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a competitive environment, but there would be people who will argue with me. I'm a social business major, and yeah, POS does get a bad rap about people sabotaging each other to get into the major because you have to apply once you get in when you're a sophomore. But I don't think that it's as toxic of an environment as some of the STEM stuff. So I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. If you guys are computer science, and we do have the best computer science program, or if you're like bio, or if you're MCB, MEB, like pre-med, all the things, it's rough. If you're poli-sci, declaring is rough. But I think that the thing to remember in those really toxic environments is that it doesn't mean that everyone's toxic. It only takes a few people to make things toxic, and sometimes it's not even them purposely doing that, it's them being worried about their own success. And so I think that if you worry about your own success and you don't worry about how you compare to others despite curves and deflation and inflation, and if you focus on learning your own material and you're putting in the work, I do think that it will pay off. So I think acknowledging that people aren't out to get you and people are out to better themselves is important to know. And if people are out to get you, that's a different thing, and I haven't come across that personally, and maybe you should just take a step back from that community and see if you can still do well without those types of people. I kind of want to do a video about like social and Greek life on its own, so I think I'm going to. But if you have any specific questions, I can definitely touch on that. Also, one last thing on people. They're just people. They're normal people. And if you don't go on Twitter, then you probably don't know that everyone is basically the same person. But if you do go on Twitter, or Twitter and TikTok, then you do know that everyone is basically the same person. So don't be intimidated and don't worry. Culture. Oh my gosh, there's so many different cultures to talk about. There's social life, there's party culture, there's athlete culture, there's so much culture. Okay, so first I'm gonna cover just like the urban culture. Berkeley and the Bay Area and California in general has a very high homeless population. I don't want to feed into the stigma of homeless people, but I will also talk about how UC Berkeley does tend to rank lower than UCLA when it comes to crime rate. Most of the crimes are smaller things. They're muggings. They can, I mean, someone steals your backpack, your laptop's in that's $1,200 out the door, roughly, and your notes and all the other priceless things. But besides that, there's not like murders, okay? There's not like murders, and it is important to, be aware of your surroundings. It's 2020. Don't walk alone at night, even if you're a dude. Like, I don't care. Don't do that. And we do have security services if you choose to go to Berkeley that can prevent that from being the case for you. There's a big debate, and if you go to Berkeley, and if you're interested in Berkeley, then it's a liberal playground. Let's talk about diversity. Diversity at Berkeley. The black population is a good 1 to 2%, and less than 1% if you take out athletes. I am part of that less than 1% who is not an athlete. I would also like to point out that 60% of black students who get into Berkeley don't go. Probably because it already has a low population, so the cycle keeps going. Or if you're black identifying in any sort of way and you're like, oh my gosh, 1%, like absolutely not. The black people who choose to go to Berkeley are some of the most intelligent, beautiful, inspiring, hardworking people I've ever met. So I do encourage you. I'm from Fairfield, so literally a very diverse place. and I was not expecting to see such lack of color. It's mostly Asian and mostly white, and a lot of brown people, like a lot of like Middle Eastern or Indian. There's not too many Latinx in the community. Sometimes like the Black community and Latinx will join up. I'm not here to like insult any community. I'm just letting you know that if you want to go to a super diverse place, then that is something that you might want to consider or look into. If you are uncomfortable with lots of different cultures, lots of different languages surrounding you, if you're uncomfortable, if you're xenophobic in any way, and like, you know, that's a conversation you need to have with yourself before you come to Berkeley. Because I'm not saying it's okay to have phobias, but I'm saying that you need to acknowledge any biases that you have and figure out what kind of environment is going to work for you and what's going to trigger you in any sort of way. And like I said, if you guys ever have any questions, I can always link you to somebody. I can always connect you with somebody who might be a better resource if you have a specific question. Last thing. I know this video is long, but hopefully it'll help you. Extracurriculars / work. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if it's like this at any other school, but I've heard that it's not. If you want to join a club, you have to apply. And sometimes there's interviews, and yeah, you pretty much have to apply, and there's interviews, and it's like a job. Like, I think I was ranting to my friend the other night about this. UC Berkeley is literally where like young adults go to play big adults. So clubs and organizations are literally jobs, and you apply and you're expected to put in this amount of work, and you put it on your resume, and XYZ from there. We have the Senate, we have the ASUC, that most schools have like a student government. That's a very serious thing. We just finished up elections. My friend Shaka won. Woo! Go Shaka! Okay. There's also professional frats that you join. They're like clubs kind of, but like intense ones. I wasn't ready to rush one. They're very intense. They do have a lot of pledging activities, and they reject a lot of people. So I think that if you want to join clubs at UC Berkeley, depending on the club, so there are ones that take everyone. Like, I'm in Berkeley Women in Business, and they take every woman who is interested to be in, like, you know, a woman in business. And then there are clubs that I'm in, like I'm also in Bear Magazine, and I had to apply, and then I had to get interviewed, and thankfully I got in, and I'm on the marketing team, and this magazine is super dope. I will literally link it down below. And I got into that my second semester. My first semester, I interviewed for a fashion blog called Garb. Didn't get in. I was really sad about that. But I am on the pink campus team, like Victoria's Secret pink campus team, and I'm currently in the application process or interview process for the rep position, so hopefully I get that. There is a club for literally anything that you have in mind. There's a kink club, okay? So if that's for you, that's for you. There's a club where you pet dogs and you bring dogs to campus. If that's for you, that's for you. There's Rallycom. I do Rallycom, so if you really have a lot of school spirit, that's for you. Trading cards of any sort, anime of any sort, music of any sort, literally anything you could think of, there is an organization for it. You can do, oh, I didn't even talk about like staying active in college. Okay, in terms of working while in college, I don't have much experience with it. I do have friends who worked at Cal Dining, so they served in the dining halls. The nice thing about Berkeley is the minimum wage, or the going rate, like for most on-campus jobs, is like almost $16 an hour. Oh my gosh, wait, I did work. I worked at American Eagle, and I only did 2 shifts, and I worked at the American Eagle in Emeryville, and I was making like $16.30 an hour, and it was very slow. And it was kind of dope. Like, the people there were really nice and fun, and yeah, I don't regret it. Okay, so that's pretty much this video. I think I covered a lot. So that is it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, if you found it informational, if you have any questions, if it was confusing, please be sure to reach out to me, and I will see about answering any of those concerns. But if you liked it, please be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm posting every Tuesday, sometimes on Saturdays. It's a good time. I love you guys so much. Stay safe, stay home, and I'll see you guys later. Bye! Go Bears!